In this video we'll be discussing some of the basic features of the production possibility frontier, or it's also referred to as the production possibility curve. They mean exactly the same thing. So what does the production possibility frontier represent? Well, the PPF firstly is this green curve. So this green line that represents all the different production possibilities of an economy if they use all their resources as efficiently as possible. So every point along the green PPF represents an economy that is using their resources efficiently. If an economy is not using its resources efficiently, we will be within the PPF. So we will be working at point D. So what that means is that we have underemployment or underutilization of our resources. So we're not using our land, labour and capital as efficiently as we could to produce goods and services. And one key feature of this point D is that there is no trade-off at point D. So what I mean by that is, if we want to, say at this point we're producing 4 trucks and we're producing 4 boats, so you always measure it up against where it is on the Y and where it is on the X axis. If we want to suddenly produce more boats, so we want to move this way, we don't have to give up any trucks. And the reason for that is we're not using our resources efficiently. So all we need to do is work harder and we can get to point A, where we'll now be producing 4 trucks and 9 boats. So points within the PPF don't necessarily imply that there is a trade-off to produce more of one good or service. If we're working on the PPF and we want to produce more boats, we will have to give up a certain amount of trucks. If we want to allocate more resources to boats, we have to give up producing a certain amount of trucks. So all points on the PPF have a trade-off, all points within the PPF do not have a trade-off. Point E, another point along the PPF, is unobtainable at this point in time. We don't have the resources to produce at this point. So if we tried to produce 9 trucks and 9 boats per year, that would be unobtainable. We can't do that. We can consume at this level, and we would do that by importing, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. But we can't produce that amount at this point in time. We may be able to in the future, but not right now. So I like to compare it to, so for example, the PPF is for a runner. So a runner, let's say me, has got an hour, and in that hour they can either run 9k, or they could, if they decide to run 9k and swim 4k, or they might decide to run 7k and swim 7k, or run 4k and swim 9k. They're the options available to that person. Now, I'm not fit enough to run 9k and swim 9k. So that production possibility E is not obtainable to me at that point in time. I don't have the running ability, but an economy does not have the resources. There's some key points about the PPF. My apologies for that. The PPF shows the range of production possibilities for a hypothetical economy that's only producing 2 goods, so it's just a fake economy, if they're working to their maximum productivity. And that's what we call our productive capacity, the maximum amount that an economy can produce if they use all their resources efficiently. Some assumptions of the PPF: only 2 goods are being produced. All resources can be swapped between either good or service, so we can use our resources for either trucks or boats interchangeably. And it's not going well. And all resources are fully and efficiently employed. So it means that we're using the best technology, that we're using all our resources efficiently at this point in time. Points to note about the PPF: movements along the PPF indicate a shift of resources away from one type of production to the other. So if we move to the right, in this example here, we're producing more boats. So if we move from point B to point A. If we move from point B to point C, then we're shifting away from boats into trucks. Points inside the PPF indicate the economy is not using its resources as well as they could. So that's unemployment or idle resources. And we could produce more of one good or service without a trade-off, as I explained to you before. So here is just some features of working within and outside the PPF. Okay, so in the PPF, we can produce more of one good or service without a trade-off. We just have to work harder. Output levels are below our potential capacity or maximum level of production. So we could be producing more. We have unemployment or underutilization of resources. So that might be labour resources aren't working as efficiently. So workers are slacking off. We might not be using all our machinery. So we have underutilized capital resources. If we're working within our PPF, material living standards would fall. We are not producing the amount of goods and services we are capable of, and therefore people's living standards will fall and poverty levels would rise. If we're working outside the PPF, this is beyond our productive capacity. We don't have the resources for this level of output. If we tried to produce at this level, it's likely just to cause inflation and increase prices. If we also try and consume at this level, so not produce but consume at this level, it generally means that we're going to be importing a lot, and that's going to cause us to go into more debt because we'll be borrowing off other countries. These concepts we'll discuss more in later chapters, but we can consume at a point outside our PPF, but we can't produce at a point outside our PPF at this point in time. So how do we actually shift the PPF outwards? How do we increase our output possibilities? And what might cause the PPF to shift inwards? So, for example, if we're producing grain and wine, and suddenly we develop a better technique for producing wine, the PPF will shift outwards. We are able to produce more wine with our available resources. We haven't gotten any better at producing grain, so the PPF for grain has stayed fairly similar, but it has shifted to the right in terms of wine production. So, how do we shift the curve in or out? So what's going to cause the curve to shift out? To shift our curve out, we have to either increase the quality or quantity of our resources. So quality of resources means we get smarter people, we have better technology, we improve our land resources, so we may have good climatic conditions. Improving the quantity of our resources, well, we might have to have more people here. So we might have to increase the size of our labour force by immigrating, or getting people to have children will increase it in the long term once they turn 17, 18 and join the workforce. So how do we shift the PPF out? We improve our technology. We invest in infrastructure. We discover new minerals to improve our land resources. We immigrate to have more people here, so improve the quantity of our resources and the quality, because a lot of these people will have skills, they'll be intelligent, they'll bring better production techniques to the workforce. We educate our citizens, or we get foreign investment, which basically means we get other countries to lend us money so that we can spend money on technology and infrastructure to boost our productive capacity. So foreign funds is really important for boosting our PPF as well. What's going to cause the PPF to shift inwards? And this is a key mistake not to make. Shifting inwards is different to just working inefficiently. So if we're being slack or not using our labour resources efficiently, we're working within our PPF. If something causes us to have less access to resources, like a drought, like a flood, if people move overseas or emigrate, if people die, all of these things will cause us to have less access to resources and the PPF will shift inwards. Disease is another example. In our next video, we're going to be talking about opportunity cost along the PPF.